Well, good morning, everybody. You guys can hear me okay? Is this on? Testing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're good. There we go. Welcome, everybody, to another edition of the Stronger Together. I just want to start off on a bit of a somber note. A very important member of our backstretch community passed away earlier this week, Phil Fuller. I didn't know Phil very well, so I did some research and I started calling some people whose opinions I respect greatly, and I never heard a bad word about Phil. From what I heard, he was great at helping out people. He helped feed people's horses and just was a genuine good guy. So it always hurts when we lose a member of our backstretch community. So I thought maybe what we'd do just to start off the proceedings is maybe just have a quick moment of silence for Phil for maybe about 20 seconds and just send our thoughts to his family. So just a quick moment of silence for Phil Fuller, please. So welcome to Stronger Together. My name is Jeff. I'm joined by some people that I'm sure you're familiar with. This is going to be the second Stronger Together from Michael Copeland. So you're the real veteran on the stage. And then we have a couple making their maiden voyages, and that is Tim Lawson and, of course, Bill Ford as well. So what we're going to do in this Stronger Together session is we're going to look back at the season that was. We'll tell you about some of the highlights, and we'll go through some of the numbers. We'll talk about the business updates. And that microphone right there, that's going to give you a chance to ask some questions. It's an opportunity, and please turn off your phones. It's going to give you an opportunity to ask questions of the panel, and we'll give you a chance to please go to the microphone and ask your questions because this is being streamed on the web, so obviously people that aren't here, they want to be able to hear your questions as well. I want to give a big thanks to New Holland for sponsoring this yet again. They're a tractor right out there, and obviously you see them on the racetrack on a fairly regular basis as well. They're going to provide us with lunch at the end of the day too. So once this is done, where is Tony? There's Tony. He's got the vouchers for the lunch at the end of the proceedings as well. So free lunch courtesy of our friends there. So none of this season that we had would have been possible without you. You are the individuals that helped make this game go, and we just want to give a big thank you to you. Last year, when we were here, we had a suggestion courtesy of Val Top, and she thought it would be great to recognize some of the hardworking people on the backstretch. And so what we did is we came together and we said, how can we do this? Phones off, please. So what we thought we would do is we would look back at this great suggestion that we got courtesy of Val, and we'd go down memory lane, and we're just going to get you to take a peek to the televisions that we have here and check out some of the horse people of the month that we've celebrated so far this season.
Horseperson of the Month is something that we decided to do on the advice of one of our assistant trainers back there. Shared an idea that it might be nice to recognize the hardworking people over on our backstretch. And so we came up with doing this each month to recognize someone. And that could be anyone from an assistant trainer to a groom, a farrier, it could be a valet, really could be anybody back there who we would refer to as maybe an unsung hero. These are the people that are there probably first in the morning, last to leave, and they have an unconditional love for these equine athletes. It's not just about horse racing. These are human interest stories, and I think these are the stories that really are at the root of what Woodbine is. And that's, we have a lot of people from diverse backgrounds that are some of the hardest working people that you will ever meet, and they do it very selflessly, and again, all with the love of the animal at the forefront.
It was a great suggestion that we had last season, and it's in the program. We also have the Owner of the Month that we celebrated starting this year as well, too. So we just wanted to give thanks to everybody, all the hardworking people on the backstretch, and to the great owners that help us in this game as well. Now, Michael, you have now been in this role of yours for about this role for what, 2 months now?
Yep,
But
2 months.
But you've been with the company now for a little more than that, which is great to see. And I don't know if you officially feel like you've settled in or not, or if you still feel like you're kind of feeling things out a little bit. But I wanted to ask you, as you look back in 2023 for our racing season, and we're not done yet, what comes to mind? What kind of pops into your head as we look back on what took place?
Well, I think it's been the first thing that comes into mind. I think is just how great the racing's been. I'm always taken back to how great this track is, how great we are on a global scale. I always say on a global scale. Oftentimes we talk about where we stack up in North America, but I think it's broader than that. So just in terms of our safety record, the quality of our racing, the quality of our facilities, quality of our people, we're right up there with the best in the world. And so I think this is another year where it proved that out. The King's Plate was a fantastic weekend. This past year, we had an all-time record in terms of our handle, about 18 million, which is fantastic. I think we had a great card that day. The crowd was amazing, and I think there's a lot more to come with that event. But it just showcases that what we're doing is working. It's meaningful to a lot of people, and it's just we continue to do great things, and that gives me a lot of hope for where we're going.
So another thing that I want to look back on is just some of the stats we've had. So let's talk about how handle's done, how our home market is done. What are the numbers looking like from a business point of view?
Well, we've had these conversations before. We've talked about a lot of the work that we're focused on, and as you know, that work that we do is for the Ontario racing industry. That's why we exist. It's our only purpose. It's the only thing we can focus on. So everything we do is about putting it back into the industry, and there's been a lot of work lately about trying to set us up for a better, brighter future. I think this industry has had so much it's had to deal with over the last couple decades. There was the high times before the Slots at Racetracks program. That got taken out. Everybody was put under incredible pressure. And I think the testament to everybody that's involved with racing here at Woodbine in Ontario, that's sort of built back up into a place where we can actually think about a really bright, strong future again. Our wagering has been good. Last year we had an all-time high in terms of our racing product, and we talked about that being over $1 billion. So we're proud of that. It's strong, but we ran into some headwinds this year. So we are down on the year. We're down about 8% in our home market area wagering from our forecast. We're down about 5% in terms of our total wagering handle. The reasons for that are largely because, as you know, we lost race dates. And not only did we lose race dates here, but other tracks around North America that make up the bulk of our wagering revenue from other areas were also lost. So I think the biggest impact came from the losses that we had outside of here. The dollar, we benefit from a strong American dollar. That has been, we have to keep that in mind before we get too excited about our progress and our success. We always have to factor that in, things we can control, things we can't control. And then I don't have to tell you, every individual in this room, that the economy has been just devastating. The costs are going exponentially in ways that none of us would have predicted and certainly aren't prepared to handle, whether it's on a personal basis or here at the track. So I think that is affecting how much people are wagering. So we're in good shape in terms of, horse supply has been about even, 8.2 on average to about 8.1 this year. Our average handle per race is steady, so we're comfortable with how we're performing and what we're putting on. But there's some pressure in the industry, and the smoke and the heat, and we're trying to figure out, are these new realities that we have to deal with? We think they are. But we're putting a lot of things in place to insulate ourselves from that in future years, so we don't have to go year to year and worry about where we're going to end up.
What is the status, before we look ahead to the sports betting and the casino, what's the status right now on the property development front?
Well, you can see if you go around to the north side of the grandstand that buildings are coming up out of the ground, and that's a really exciting sign. The casino is open. The main casino building, it opened a little bit later than we expected. We had hoped to be sooner, but really that is going to be something that's going to deliver a lot to the property and a lot to Woodbine as the landlord of the property for decades to come. So it's moving forward. The music venue should be open at the end of this year, a 5,000-seat music venue. The hotel, the 400-room hotel, is half open with more to come. So it's all coming online. It's been coming a bit more slowly than we would have hoped, but it will rise up to reach the levels that we expect. But it's all growing. There's retail buildings that are being built outside the north side of the walking ring that you'll see. That's going to animate and recreate that whole space. So it's a pretty exciting place right now.
What about the sports betting? Obviously now you can bet on Bet365 on horse racing. There's huge competition now for the gambling dollar, as we all know. How has that transition gone towards the sports betting point of view through Bet365?
Well, certainly last time we were here, we were talking about our hope to get sports betting integrated into the sports books, and it was a mighty haul for the last year and a half trying to do that. But credit to our team working with AGCO and CPMA and OLG in the province to get that across the line. So we are integrated with Bet365. So if you go on Bet365's online sports betting site, you can bet on horse racing, and that's all done through our platforms. So much in the same way that somebody would bet on a HPI bet. It's the same system that operates those sports bets. So that's great for us because it gets us into a whole new group of racing fans that otherwise wouldn't be exposed to our racing and our product. And it puts us up alongside the other sports. So we are among the best. We are right up there with hockey and football and basketball and soccer and baseball. In fact, we're probably ahead of a couple of those sports when you look at how much people interact with it. So what this does is it puts us back in the conversation, back on the front burner, and gives us a lot of opportunity to drive that. And we're looking at ways that this new sports bettor is going to want to engage with racing. It might be different than some of the people that have grown up with this and are sort of our core customers who remain incredibly important to us and our priority. But it allows us to reach new people in new ways, and that's only going to create a lot more opportunity that we can then eventually funnel back into the racing product.
Let's talk about some off-track news. Obviously, there's been some changes in the leadership component of Woodbine. You've got a new role. Tim's got a new role, and Bill's got a new role as well. And I had a chance to meet Monty McNaughton. He's here, and I had a chance to meet him and his family. Great to see them at the races just the other day here as well. They probably picked the winner of the race. I didn't pick the winner of the race. Surprise, surprise. But I just want to ask you about his role and what other changes have taken place in the leadership portion of the company at this point.
It was a natural transition for me to step into this role. I've worked very closely with Jim Lawson over the last few years at Woodbine, and prior to that in some other capacities. Jim is still involved in the business. He's the executive chair, which means he runs our board of directors. He also oversees our senior management team. So we're very close, and he will still remain involved, and there's so much that we will benefit from having him involved. But we are also transitioning into a new leadership team with Bill Ford, Chris Lush on the IT side, Monty now joining the team, which is fantastic, and David Vivness, who's now going to run our commercial operations and our marketing and branding. And the thing that's exciting for me is there's not really much of a change in terms of how I think about things, and this is about growth. This is about opportunity. I'm starting to use the words more and more because they come naturally to me, which is it's about ambition. It's about us understanding how far we can go. It's about us appreciating how great this organization is and how great racing is. And it's us claiming our leadership position. We are and should believe that we are the best in the world. And we can and should believe that this is going to be a strong, sustainable, vibrant industry, and a vibrant industry in Ontario and specifically at Woodbine. So it's having that ambition and having the confidence to believe that we can get there. You know, we're always going to hit roadblocks in everything we come up against. We're going to have people that tell us we can't do things. There are things that we believe ourselves that we can't achieve. But when you can push through those limitations, you can get to some amazing places. And I only want to go to amazing places. So that's where we're going, and that's the view of our team. And the third word, so if it's ambition and it's confidence, the third word that I rely on is integrity. We're going to do it the right way. You know, we're going to lead. We're going to make the right decisions. We're going to treat people fairly. And that's going to, if we do all of those things, it's going to take us to some good places. We're going to get good results. So I'm excited about where we're going. We're not there yet. We're sort of digging out still. You know, we're digging out from some of the structural issues we've had in the past. We're digging out from our ability to generate revenues in new ways, some of the limitations we have, but we're not using that as an excuse. We're recognizing what the challenges have been. We're focusing our efforts on saying, how do we blow through those? And soon enough, we're going to get to a place where we're starting to see the fruits of our labors. The casino is going to be up and running. We're going to be in more than one sports book, and we're going to be able to push that out and advertise that and communicate that to everybody in Ontario, everybody in Canada soon enough. And, you know, we've got this property development that, you know, 400 acres of land that E.P. Taylor had the foresight to purchase and give to the Ontario racing industry that we now have the opportunity to develop for the benefit of the racing industry. All the profits from that will go back into the industry. So we have been given an unbelievable opportunity to grow and put this on an incredibly strong footing. Thanks to the hard work of the people that have gotten us to this point, it's up to us now to take it from here, and that's what I'm super excited about.
Yeah, great stuff. And obviously something that's very important to everybody in this room that we should look ahead to is the purse structure for next season. Do you envision any changes in that regard? How do things look for purses for next year?
We have an agreement, we negotiated an agreement with the HBPA where we would keep purses flat at $62 million for next year, so there'll be no change to that. You know, there was a climate where, with rising costs and everything we've talked about, you know, there was a discussion internally about would we ever have to reduce purses. We don't want to reduce purses. We're not going to reduce purses. So purses will be at the agreed upon level. Race days will be at 129. I believe, next year. So we're not taking down race days. So, you know, rest assured on that front. And my hope, that the way I've said this before, how I define my own success, my own personal success, and success of the organization is the day that we can afford and will pay higher purses. That is what success is. All of these other things we accomplish are a means to an end. And the way that we put money into the industry and what's going to support the industry and get the money into your hands is through higher purses. It is our goal to do that, but we're going to do it at a time that we can afford to do it, and we continue to do it into perpetuity. That's what I am personally focused on doing, and that's how I'll judge my own success in this role. So next year it'll be flat, and we're going to drive the opportunities as quickly and as thoughtfully as we can to make sure that we can contribute back in the industry in a meaningful way.
Now, we've touched on some of the developments here, whether it be the casino. What's the current status on the GO train? We've touched on that quite a bit through previous Stronger Togethers. What's the status of that project right now?
So for anyone that's not familiar, we do have plans. We've been working on plans for quite some time to build a GO station in the southeast corner of the property. What that will do is we'll bring hundreds of thousands, millions of people onto the property, not only to take part in racing and have access to racing, but access to the casino, which we benefit from, but also to create a vibrancy and a value to this land that we're going to develop, again, to the benefit of everybody in this industry. So Woodbine is spending $170 million to build that station. We're doing that in partnership with Metrolinx and in partnership with the province. It's a necessary investment. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money that the first thing I would be thinking if I were in your shoes is, geez, that money would look good if it was in purses right now. I get that, But by doing that, we're going to be able to make exponentially more profit for years to come that we can then put back into the industry. So it's an investment that we've chosen to make. It's an unbelievable opportunity, and we hope to have a finalized agreement by the end of this year, and you'll see construction in a few years on that station start. But it's really that unlocks everything that is to follow.
Appreciate the update there. We're going to let you get a bit of a breather, and we're going to bring in Bill Ford now to talk about one of our prize positions here at Woodbine, and that's the E.P. Taylor Turf Course. You have some news that you want to pass along in that regards, Bill.
Yeah, thank you very much, Jeff. And I just wanted to reiterate everything Michael was saying about the past season. I think we've been very proud of it, and it's exciting, and still more to come. As you all know, we are very proud of the E.P. Taylor Turf Course. It is really the flagship of our racing program, and we think nothing else like it in North America. You know, named after E.P. Taylor, who gave us so much, and you know, we all should be grateful for. We are aware that the backstretch has kind of reached its end of life. This is the old Marshall course. So we are undertaking a project to rebuild that 5/8 backstretch of the E.P. Taylor Turf Course. We have purchased the grass. It is now growing for us. That will take a couple years to reach maturity, so I can tell you that we're not going to negatively affect the 2024 season on the E.P. Taylor Turf Course. But we are going to start discussions with all stakeholders. This isn't something we're going to do by ourselves. We spoke to the senior leadership of the HBPA last week about it. We will need to speak to Breeders' Cup with respect to our win-in, your-ins, and the like. But very, very excited to announce this significant investment in our core racing program.
So just to clarify, that will not take place next season. It'll be the 2025.
That's correct.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. Let's talk about now the inner turf course, which has been a wonderful new addition to us here at Woodbine. I noticed now there's some tarps on that turf course. What exactly is going on there?
Yeah, so just starting. We have been investigating the tarps. We know that some of our friends in the U.S. have been putting them on their tracks with some success, so we have purchased the tarps to go around the inner turf course. The key to that is we hope to be able to use that track 2 or 3 or 4 weeks earlier than we have in the past. It will allow us to get going on the turf season a little bit earlier. So we're very, very excited about this investment in the core racing.
Great stuff there. So we can look for that to continue on the inside turf course as well, and hopefully we'll have more turf races next season. Let's now bring in Tim Lawson. And Tim, as we look ahead to the 2024 racing calendar, what are things looking like from that point of view?
Well, thanks, Jeff. Just a few things on our end. In accordance with our contract with HBPA, we have 129 days slated for 2024. There was a lot that went into this, including ensuring that we're running kind of a sustainable operation at Woodbine, but at the same time balancing out a sufficient number of racing opportunities for our horse people. We understand that the key to success here at Woodbine for our horse people is to have a full calendar of racing. It's what keeps people employed here, and it's what puts money into your guys' pockets. So that's where we're at. We're currently in discussions with HBPA about an opening date. Our intention is to open up on Saturday, April 27th. With the backstretch opening on the last week of February, which is February 26th. Same schedule as we usually do, with setup day on the Monday, Tuesday, shipping horses in, and then having the tracks open, weather pending, of course, on the Wednesday. So that's where we're at for now. It's a very similar calendar to this year, and of course, I'd like to reiterate that. With 4 less race dates, what we want to assure you guys is that we're not taking away racing opportunities. Our intention is to completely provide the same number of races as we traditionally have with 133 days, and of course dispersing 100% of our purse budget, which is at $62 million for 2024.
So opening day, Saturday, April 27th for next season, tentatively. That's what it looks like at this point. But you get to break all the good news here today because you're going to tell us now about the King's Plate. The King's Plate this year was an amazing race. Starting gate was full. We spoke of the wagering numbers, and obviously we had a very worthy winner in Paramount Prince, who was able to take him coast to coast on the front end. Tell us about the King's Plate for 2024. You get to break the news. When do I need to have my fancy suit ready to go?
I do like breaking exciting news, but it is exciting for us to announce that we are hosting the King's Plate in the same time slot as we did this past year. The only change that we're making for 2024 is it will be on a Saturday. So right now we are scheduling the King's Plate for Saturday, August 17th. We saw tremendous turnout, for our fans and for, most importantly, our horses and our horse people on that date. We want to stay consistent as we did in years before with allowing all of our horse people here to develop their 3-year-olds over the summer months, give them a proper 3-year-old prep schedule for our stakes, which we think was tremendously successful this past year. And hopefully, barring anything unforeseen, we see a full starting gate next year and welcoming, our fans to showcase the best of Canadian racing.
Saturday, August 17th, that is the dates for next year's King's Plate. And there'll be no racing the Thursday prior to that, just to make sure that we maximize the field sizes, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. And it also helps us out logistically to set up for the plate. And one thing that we will note that for 129 days of racing, what we'll do is we'll take out the Thursday before the plate, and we're going to tack it on to a Friday early on in the meet, just so we don't keep our horses waiting too long for their opportunity to run. So that's, instead of running the Thursday before the plate, we're going to run the third Friday of the meet in May.
Thanks for those updates. Really appreciate that, and looking forward to all those big dates. We've talked about purses, and one thing that is very important to everybody in this room and everybody you talk to is help. Help is extremely hard to find right now on the backstretch, and we're going to now toss the ball back into Bill Ford's court in here. And as I look ahead to 2024, Bill, what is the status on the labor issues that we're dealing with right now on the backstretch?
Thank you. We really understand how big an issue this is. Early next week, we're actually going to be sending a team up to Ottawa. It's going to be Racetracks of Canada, Ontario Racing, and Woodbine represented. And the key issue is really to speak to all necessary stakeholders on the immigration matter. We think we're making some progress. This is an issue where sometimes we get sideswiped by world events and some other industries maybe not using the foreign worker program as it should be used. But we are very cognizant that we need to make it easier for people to get workers up here, because people are really working themselves too hard, and we acknowledge it, and we want to help you guys succeed, and to that end we're going to put and have been putting a lot of time and effort on making it easier to get people up here to help.
Appreciate the update on that front. We're going to open the floor now to questions, so if you have any questions, feel free to come up to the microphone and ask a question, take away. Yep, if you want to go ahead, you can ask the question. Just please identify yourself for those that are watching online, and you can ask us any questions that you feel free. So,
yeah, my question is to the board up here and to the management of Woodbine. One thing that's really concerned me and really upset me, and probably E.P. Taylor would roll in his grave, is the fact that you had a ruling where you couldn't go and race down in Fort Erie and come back. And that really hurt me big time last year. And going forward, how, as an owner that has claiming horses, you hurt me big time. And I hope you rescind that rule that you had.
I can take that one. I think it's important for us to have the horses that are stabled here support our key racing program. It is not inexpensive to keep this backstretch open for everybody and have all the great facilities that are available to everybody. We have tried to work with Fort Erie with respect to their racing books and the like, but oh, thank you. So I understand the issue and the difficulty. You know, I think what we have tried to do is build a lot of flexibility. Tim and Scott in the racing office have tried to address it on an individual basis. If somebody is really trying to get their horse raced here at Woodbine and are not finding the opportunities, we are allowing those horses to go down to Fort Erie and then come back. I think right now we are not anticipating a change to that policy next year, but I think we will continue to be open on a case-by-case basis to allow people to get their horses run, and we understand the frustration when it's not available.
All I got to say to you is I don't know what you're concerned about, because the horses that I'm running are claiming horses. Are you worried about the competition from Fort Erie? Because it's ridiculous, that ruling. Just let me finish. I have claiming horses. I want to go down there and race and come back. I'm keeping my trainer employed. I'm keeping the grooms, the hot walkers, the veterinarians here employed. And you mean to tell me I can't come back? You allow stakes horses to go down there and come back, but because I'm a claimer, owner, I can't come back. I'm sorry, I find it absolutely ridiculous.
Well, I think what we're trying to do is accommodate all the horses here and write racing opportunities for them. And if after a number of attempts you can't find a race that works for you, then we can have the discussion. But we are looking for horses that are stabled here to support the Woodbine racing program.
I get that. But what you're failing to understand is horses change during the year. Their level of competition, how they can compete, changes during the year. Some horses during the summer have to go down there. It's cooler weather, different climate. Just give them a chance to go down there. They can turn around and come back up here. And all I'm asking is that you go down there, race for the day, and come back. I'm keeping people employed. I think you've missed the point with the owners when it comes to claiming horses.
Yeah, I understand your point. The other part of this is we want you to race here, because the fact that the economics of this is, and we talk about trying to increase purses, we talk about all the effort we're all doing to make this successful. We make significantly more revenue by a horse race happening here than it does down there. So if we did not put guardrails around this, and I think they're reasonable guardrails because you can run down there if you don't have the opportunity here, then what we're going to do is lose money, and that's going to erode the industry. It doesn't make sense for anybody in this province to do that. So if people are going to occupy stalls here, we're going to underrate the cost of occupying those stalls. We want to at least be able to maximize the revenue that we can generate from racing. So we understand the challenge. We want to support you to have those opportunities. We'd like you to make that choice to have them here. And we'd also like Fort Erie to be open to working with us on a consolidated race book, which they have not worked with us on, so that we can schedule races in a way that maximizes the success of this industry in Ontario. So we are working to address this, but this is a rule we've put in place to address the reality of the situation.
Again, like I say, you allow the stakes horses to go down there, but you don't allow me to go down there with claiming horses. So all I'm saying to you is, you say you're working with Fort Erie. Fort Erie allows horses to come up to Woodbine. So it looks to me, how I see it, Woodbine's not working with Fort Erie.
Right.
Thank you.
Hi, Steve Owens, trainer here at Woodbine. We threw this out to the racing department last year. As a small-time trainer, we do happen to get the cheaper claimers at the bottom level. In most jurisdictions, they have a 90-day claiming rule. We try to get that implemented into Woodbine, that if Fort Erie people come take the fruit from the bottom of the tree and take it back to Fort Erie, it's hurting our product here at Woodbine. Doesn't give the trainers the opportunity to consecutively race those horses at the lower levels. Try implementing the 90-day rule. that horses that get claimed at Woodbine come back to race at Woodbine. It's for your benefit and for the trainers here at Woodbine.
So we have heard you on this one in the past, and we have brought that to the AGCO. We were rebuffed at that level. Now, the AGCO has new leadership in place, a new CEO and a new team being put in place. So we're going to go back to them and explain this issue again. We would like to make that change and have the claiming rules changed, but it's a little bit out of our hands. We were told point blank we would not be allowed to do it last year, and we will ask again, and hopefully with new leadership, we will explain it to them better.
Barb?
Hi, it's too high. Okay, first of all, I wasn't going to talk about Fort Erie, but I just want to make one thing about the Fort Erie deal. If you're going to not let people go back and forth, then bottoms should not be 7,500 here. Okay, bottoms should be no less than maybe 10, 12.5, because you're just devaluing the horses here. Okay, that's all I have to say on that. Bottoms, cheapest horse race here should be no less than 10. Okay. Are you saying there'd be no turf here in 25? On the EP Taylor?
I'm not saying that point blank. I think we are still...
Well, it sounds like it if
No,
you're going to be changing a 5 furlong stretch.
We are still working on the timing, and we will work with other people.
All right.
We are trying to find a way of disturbing the meat as little as possible, but we do know that it takes almost... It takes at least about 10 months to rebuild a track.
Well,
so we are trying to figure out the best way to do it.
Yeah.
The track is, unfortunately, at the end of its life.
No, I agree, but got to remember Churchill is still trying to fix what they did 2 years ago. So we have to be wary that we don't screw up the turf course for good. Okay?
100%, and that's why
Okay.
we are doing such a long lead time,
Okay.
and why we're telling you now that this is something we are planning in the future and the investment.
Okay, and then, okay, now another turf question here. Maybe this goes to Tim or whoever's ever in the race office. We, EP Taylor turf course, best turf course in the year. There was not 1.5 mile race here except for a 3-year-old restricted race. There was hardly any races over 1 mile and 1/16. Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, that's something that that we need to take a look at. I think it's no secret that, how the breed's evolved in North America, and that there's less availability of horses that want to go over 1 mile or 1 mile and 1/16. I mean, as it
That's
pertains
not
to
true.
you, Barbara,
That's not true.
I understand where you're coming from. I'm open to working with Scott and taking feedback from all trainers to see what what might be feasible for those who have some of these niche horses at the
They're
moment.
not niche horses, they're just horses. We have got so many 5 furlong races and 5.5 furlong races. 20 years ago or whenever, I mean, if you didn't run 5 furlongs in the first meet, in the first book, in the first, I mean, you could get one, but not like, I mean, the book's full of 5 and 5.5 furlong races. You don't even have to train a horse for these. I mean, you don't even need to be a trainer anymore. I mean, look at us all. We're not, we're not even trainers. We're just going from race to race. And my other big beef, and then I'll sit down, okay, because I could go on for hours, okay? Okay, the other is, okay, the condition book. You have an allowance race. Races in the condition book, if they fill, they should have priority over races that are carried over or extras. I mean, you got 15 extras, and you can't even train to a race anymore. I mean, if an allowance race, long before you were here, Tim, and I've been here a long time, if an allowance race, an A other than went with 6 horses, it went. If a maiden special weight went with 7 horses, it went. I mean, you didn't have to call your owner, who's most of my owners are from the U.S., and you didn't have to call and say they didn't use your race. They didn't use your race, but it had 7, or they didn't use your race, it had 8. I mean, what's going on? Like, a book race should go. It should be an absolute go if it fills. I mean, we got more carryovers than we have books in the book. And you don't even know what you're doing. Half the time, you have to put your horses in races that you had no intention of running in, just to race So they don't leave. And I mean, like I said, I'd say 50% of my horses could easily, if my owners weren't fairly loyal to me, they could easily be at other tracks right now.
Well, thank you, and that's something that that we will look into. For us, it's finding the balance between, you know, ensuring that these book races are going in a proper manner and allowing trainers to train for the book. But you know, we get so many phone calls as well about races that keep getting carried over and their horses not getting the opportunity to run. I do agree with you, Barb, that you know, we need to be loyal to what's written in the book, but at the same time, the last thing I want for our owners and our trainers here is to have their horses shelved for 2, 3, 4 weeks because the race keeps getting carried over. We also need to ensure that there's proper opportunity for people to run. Now, there's a balancing act in it, and I totally agree with you on that end, but that's something that we need to and that we will look into.
Morning, everybody. Hi, Colleen Delas. I liked your words, integrity, ambition, and you know, the vision and everything we're seeing, but I think we also need 2 other words, collaboration and balance, because I think we hear about all of these things, but what you're hearing from the group here is more input from us and more understanding for the actual horse people. And I personally would love to know, with all this great work that we're doing with the development and the casinos, when will the horse people see the actual benefit of that, and what does that look like specifically? Because as we know, costs are going up exponentially, 15% a year, purses are flat, we are not keeping pace with the American tracks, we are all losing money, and we want to know when the help is coming for us.
Is that the question? When it's coming?
Yes.
Yeah,
What does
so-
it look like? How are you going to help the horse people? When is it coming for us?
Well, I mean, I think when the revenues start coming in from the casino, which is not months, it's probably years. When revenue comes in from sports betting, which is, you know, likely, hopefully towards the end of last year, it's been a slow rollout. It's been slower than we had hoped. But we're working through those issues. I have a meeting tomorrow morning with the AGCO to talk about how we can accelerate that. But that's you know, likely going to be into next year at some point that we see some upside from there. So these are long lead projects that are generating revenue. What we can do in the near term is try to maximize wagering. That's the one thing that we have near-term impact over. But to do that, we need to put racing policies in place. We need to build our condition book in the right way. Right?
No,
This is why we put these policies in place, because we're trying to drive revenue that we can then put back to not only fund some of these initiatives we're doing, but to help support the community. Because we're also suffering. All of us are having increased costs. So we're trying to be better in terms of the initiatives that we're involved in, which means reducing our own costs, which we're doing, cutting back on the non-priority things that we're involved in, so we're not spending money in needless areas, and driving the things we can control. The one thing we can control on revenue is wagering. That's why we're making these decisions.
And so I guess
right?
There's a lot of great trainers and people in this room that could help you with that goal in more collaboration, I think.
Right. That's exactly why we're having meetings like this.
Yeah,
Thank you.
And Mike, I'd like to add, because Colleen's question was twofold. One was on the purses and when they're going to see, but the other was collaboration. I will say that's one of the reasons I was given my role and my position, and I do want to collaborate with all of you in this room, and will make myself available.
Bill, just a little closer
We're
to
only
Bill.
going to be able to do this working together.
Hi, I'm going to just go back to the turf course discussion. For a lot of years, there was a bottom level that could run on the turf, which was quite a bit higher than it is now. We all have cheaper horses, but I don't think the Canadian weather really lends to a long turf season. And I feel that if you didn't run as many cheaper races on the turf, you might be able to preserve it a little bit better. There's a lot of tracks where you know, maidens weren't allowed on the turf. I mean, everybody has their line. ours has gotten lesser and lesser. I realize you want big fields and you want people to bet, but our turf course is getting beat up from it.
Yeah, I can take that. I think over the years, one of the reasons that we've lessened the claiming price, the bottom claiming price for our turf races is, not only does it drive field size, and that's, in fairness, that's something that we prioritize, but, we do have a number of horses and trainers here at all levels that prefer the turf, and I think that was also a big reason why we implemented, these levels mostly on the inner turf course. I can go back and look, but predominantly our inner turf races are designed to host races at all levels, and I don't think that's totally correlated with what we're trying to get after here. Gail, is one thing is with how outdated that backstretch is right now on the Marshall side of the turf course. What we're seeing when we get even a decent amount of rain, and after it clears up, is we'll find the footing on the backstretch to be good to yielding, and then the front stretch firm. And that creates an issue for our horses, and it creates an issue for our bettors. What we want to create is some consistency with that footing and to make it sustainable for years to come. And unfortunately, procrastinating and holding it off just really isn't an option for us. At some point, we need to refurbish it for the health of our horse population here and for our program, because, even since I've been here, I've seen it getting a little torn up, more year by year. So, I do understand where you're coming from, but, at the same time, I think what we will find after this reconstruction is done is we'll see more consistency on the footing, and we'll see a healthier surface for not only, the summer months, but an extended period of time in the spring and in the fall.
I would agree that you should utilize the inner turf for some of the cheaper races, and you might get a couple more of the better races on the big turf course. I mean, I agree with that, and I sort of thought that's what the inner turf was partially for. You had a lot of them on the outer, and it just doesn't seem to hold up. I know it's old, but any turf, look at Gulfstream. I mean, they run so many races on it, it does never hold, never holds up for their season. Thank you.
No, it's not bad. I kind of disagree with not having the cheaper races on the turf. It's not fair to the small trainers. It's great if you're a big trainer with big horses to say it, but the small trainers that have those $10,000 horses, they want to run it. They want to run it, but they want to run it. They want to be on the grass. But as far as the 40-area thing, I think there should be a rule you can run the horse once, but not a second time, because I think we're losing horses because a trainer will take a horse there. We took a horse there, and our intention is never to keep a horse here and charge an owner a Woodbine training rate. But that horse went by 13 lengths, not allowed back. You're losing horses that possibly could have came back and ran at Woodbine, because now we're leaving them there. So I think there should be a stipulation. Either maybe if a trainer has 20 starts, they can't have more than one start in 40 area or something to that effect. Or if a horse runs once, if they run a second time there, then they can't come back. Because I think we are losing horses by saying they can't come back. Because once they're there, they're not coming here to run. So there is a chance, if you let them have that one start, come back. If they go a second time, you're done. That's where you're running, and that's where you should be. And I'm aware that a trainer should not be here with 10 stalls running 8 horses in Fort Erie. That makes no sense. If that's the case, you should be in Fort Erie. Although not practical maybe for them, where you're running is where you should be. But I just think we're losing horses by not allowing them back sometimes. Okay. And then there was another thing. We brought up this in the meeting end of last year, asking for some kind of incentive for trainers. We raised the owners, and that's great, from 400 bottoms to 500, when if you would have given that to the trainers $100, put a cap on them by all means. You can't run 300 races and get $100 a start. But the smaller trainers might be able to survive the winter with some extra money at the end of the year so that they don't have to go away to try to continue to survive the winters. So if you could give those guys $100 a start, which other tracks do, then I think that would go a long way for helping a lot of these guys.
Yeah, thank you. I'm happy you brought that up, Josie. That's something that I'm actively looking at and prioritizing to see if it's viable for us within our budget next year. I do appreciate that, all of the trainers here, trying to hold on to owners and keeping your day rate consistent. You're not making any money off it. And what I want to do and what my mission is here is to find avenues to make life a little more affordable for you guys, in thinking outside the box. And that's definitely one thing that, I think would be a good idea. I can't promise that I'm going to deliver it, but it's at the top of my agenda, and it's something that I really do think could be a great idea if it's viable. So thank you for bringing it up.
No problem. It's just something we have to do for everyone. It can't be just for categories of people. It has to help everybody. All right, thank you.
I just forgot to ask one thing. Okay, I'm back. I forgot about the dates, okay? Why don't you put more into middle April rather than into freaking Christmas? Because, there's a good chance, the weather's okay today, but we could lose the last 2 weeks of the meet just like that with the weather. Let's face it, it's Canada, right? So why don't you add, what was the decision to start pretty much, in May, as opposed to, because the first 2-3 weeks, 90% of us can't get a race anyways because they're all 4.5 furlongs. So, why can't you start that meet middle April and go to, beginning of December rather than going, into December when there's a good chance that, we're gonna get snowed out anyways or cold out or whatever. Any thought of that,
I can speak to that a bit. There's fine tuning to this. No matter what time you end or you start, unfortunately with our climate right now, we're finding very inclement weather around the time that we move in. A big, topic of conversation has been trying to get that main track open in a timely manner so people can prep. I had a meeting with the HBPA the other day, and one of the suggestions was, just like we were doing with the turf course, can we put that tarp on the main track? The problem is if we were to put that on the main track and we were snowed in, we don't have the machinery to take that snow off without, severely damaging those tarps. One thing that we're finding is these springs, for some reason, are extending with very inclement weather. The last few years when we've opened, the timing's been perfect for the weather. It's been horrible weather. People have delayed their ship-in dates, and we're just finding a bit of a slower start to these horses getting ready. We don't want to cancel race dates in these later months, due to inclement weather, but we also appreciate that whether it be February, March, and even early April, it's very unpredictable with our weather patterns, and we want to make sure that people do have ample amount of time to get these horses prepped for an opening day with the limited horse population that we do have.
Hi, I'm Renico Lafon, small trainer here. I can see a lot of people are getting very frustrated with this 4 area and condition boat situation. I'm asking you guys to do a favor for me. Start trying, please do. I'll tell you why. The 4A thing, I heard what Josie said, makes sense. Prior to that, also the small trainer, the owner that we were talking earlier, what I want you guys to understand is as me, a man that does everything myself, ride, groom, everything myself. This is not easy. One, the 4A thing is, I think you guys should make a rule where do it about one time, you're not able to go again. I figure, make a pact. Every 3 races, a horse doesn't perform at Woodbine, should be able to go for an actual run. If it can win down there for the owner, it puts money in the owner's pocket to help also buy new horses for the future, which we need. Everything they run last year, they make no money, they get discouraged. They want out. Or they just take them to 4A and call it that. Then we lose from here as well, too. You know what I mean? The condition book purpose, well, yeah, this year we had a really rough condition book. Really, really, really rough. We really have to fix that. As a man myself that ride my own, program my own, it's hard to have a horse sitting there win on a race. For example, they would say earlier, go over 5, carry over 7. Days and days and days, gets thrown out. You're stuck with a horse in the barns and it'll kill itself, possibly hurt itself, waiting for God knows how long for the race to come back again, maybe weeks before that race come back again. You're screwed. As Barbara was saying earlier, telling the owners, your race didn't go, they get frustrated. They're paying day rate. Races aren't going. Horses aren't getting a run. Might possibly get hurt. There goes a vet bill. Costs about $3-4 grand to get 50 depending on what happens to that horse. It hurts us as trainers as well too. They might pull. If they're not from here, back to the States. We lose here again once again. We gotta get the whole thing going as a, I get you guys are trying, but actually implement it, make it standard. Because if you guys put yourself in our shoes, you'll see that this is not easy at all. And it gets very, very, very frustrating. Extremely frustrating. And I speak for everyone here. Like, it's not easy. And I get you guys are trying, you guys are talking. I want you guys to actually beat us. Carry these horses, pay these bills, deal with injured horses that get hurt foolishly from not being a run, they're overdoing themselves. Be a groom sweating every day, hosing every day, feel that actual impact. It's tough and very annoying. So the trying is good. I get that. We need to make it standard. Thank you.
Thanks.
Julia Carey. Just a question about track maintenance, especially in the springtime when we first open up. A lot of times that training track is unusable. And it puts us at a disadvantage, us that winter here, in getting ready for the spring. Could we not use our all-weather track to train on in the spring if they can't maintain that training track?
Yeah, for our you know, and I defer this to Ryan Stafford, but you know, from the experience that you know I've had from working at other racetracks, and you know, and working a little more with dirt than Tapeta, the dirt can be a little more manageable in some of these you know, volatile conditions. As you guys know, in some of these winter months, a huge problem we have when we cancel racing or when we cancel training is when we get moisture in that Tapeta track and then it freezes over and we get, you know, bad, it balls up, you know, pretty horribly. You know, it's a little more manageable with our training track, whether you apply calcium to it, whether you apply any type of antifreeze to try to keep it, you know, at least harrowed and keep it loose. We need a good climate and we need minimal snow, to be honest with you, in order to blade that snow off the main track and to keep it somewhat usable. But our goal, you know, year after year, and taking feedback from all our trainers, is to get on that main track as quickly as possible while keeping the safety of our horses in mind, because that's what it all revolves around. If it's not safe footing, then we're not, and we take an assessment that that is unsafe, we're not going to jeopardize, you know, these horses. But with that in mind, we do make it a mission of ours to get on there as quickly as possible. Unfortunately, sometimes things are out of our control, and you know, we have to react to the cards that were dealt. But you know, my mission for you guys is to get training on that main track as soon as possible.
I understand all that, and that's fine. But if we have to use that training track, and many years we used to start racing in March and only on dirt, and the track was fine. But this track in the spring is horrible. It's like a gravel road and extremely unsafe for the horses. You're playing Russian roulette every time you take your horse out there, and you got no other choice but to go there. So maybe they can fix up the maintenance somehow,
yeah,
so it doesn't become like that. Is horrible.
Thank
many,
you,
many
and I
times.
encourage all of you to provide that feedback with us if there's something early on that you see, you know, something a little fishy with our training track, if it has to do with the inclement weather or safety issues. Please let us know. I mean, we're, you know, and keep in touch with our track maintenance crew and myself, because we'll all pass along that feedback to our maintenance crew.
But I mean, it's like been like that for years. Like that's not no new thing.
Understood.
It's always been bad.
Okay.
So there must be a way of being able to do it, because if we could have done it, if we did it in January and February many years ago, we can do it now. That's all.
Thank you.
My name is Don McCrae, part-time trainer, full-time groom. So you say that we're starting to grow and we're starting to make progress, and you're hoping that the purses will increase, which is great. My biggest concern is we constantly are losing days. 3 days here, 3 days here, and it sucks. And I know you're trying to do your best. My question is, do you honestly see us getting days back? Because that's my only concern. Like, if the purses stay stagnant or they drop a bit, that sucks. But we keep losing days, we're all done here. So my question is, do you honestly think we'll be getting days back? That's more important to me than anything right now. Fort Erie, yeah, I know everyone wants to piss and moan about Fort Erie. That sucks. We can't keep losing days. Do you think there's any shot we eventually get days back?
So when you say back, you mean to what?
Well, we lose 3 days. We lose 4 days last year. We
Yeah.
lost 3 days again this year. So are we going to gain days back? Are we ever going to get, you know what, guys, you know what, instead of 129 days, 133 next year, and next year, you know, maybe 140. Do you see that ever happening to us? Because that's just as important as anything, because that's why we keep losing all the horses as well.
Right. Well, I think, I mean, I'll take a first shot at this. I think when we negotiated the dates, it was based on the structure of the industry as we see it right now. And that was you know, I'm looking at Sue. We had really good conversations about this. She represented the horse people very well as we're thinking about dates. And our position was, this is what we think is in the best interest of running this business. So I'd say it doesn't seem that we would add dates back on. But situations can change. The structure can change. We'll have to evaluate that when we see how things evolve. But right now, I think we're at the level that we're comfortable with. That's why we built it in the agreement, and then we'll have that conversation again when the next one comes up.
I understand that. So, but we keep talking about our field sizes at like an all-time high. So what is it just dollars and cents that we're losing our days right now? Like, is it eventually with the money coming in, are we going to get more days? Because if we have such good field size in that, how do we not have more races then? And believe me, I don't ever claim to be smart. That's why I'm training horses. So that's why I'm asking you the questions, because you're sitting up there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I'd say that we're, you know, we're dancing around in glee at our field sizes. I mean, we're fighting hard to get our field sizes.
We're hired in a lot of places, though, aren't we, though?
Yeah. Pardon me?
As opposed to most racetracks, we're hired in a lot of places, though, aren't we?
Not necessarily, no. I mean, I think we have a hope of becoming higher.
Yeah.
You know, as I said, our wagering's down like 8%, and in our own racing 5% total. Like we can't yet start celebrating because we haven't yet got the benefits of the hard work.
Yeah.
We're in a position to have that. I mean, we should all just celebrate the fact that, you know, I don't know, a number of years ago, 10, 15 years ago, I don't know if there was a lot of hope of where you could go.
Yeah.
At least we have hope right now, but we're not yet there. So what we're trying to do is build a structure of the industry with all of these policies, all of the dates, with trying to maintain purses to give ourselves a chance to get there. Yeah. We're not yet there, but we're close.
Yeah.
And I absolutely believe we're going to get there. But if we start moving a bit too fast, what we're going to do is we're going to kill that opportunity down the road.
Yeah.
And then it's going to be even worse. So I think we're doing the right thing. We're being thoughtful about how we do it. You know, every time I come here, I think the thing that leaves me is understanding how hard everybody in here works and how difficult it is. You know, you guys have the hardest jobs, the most pressure, the most uncertainty. We fully understand that. That's why we spend every day trying to put you in a better position. That's all we want to do. If we do it too quickly, because you can always say, well, let's just do it now. People need it now. Well, we can, but what that will do is it'll kneecap us down the road. Yeah. And we want to set this up forever. That's what we're trying to do. So we're gonna get to a place where things do ease up. Colleen, I can't give you an exact date of when that is. The faster it happens, the happier I'll be. But we're still, you know, a little while away from having that. But, you know, we're further along this year than we were last year. And we're going to be further along next year than we are this year. And when we get to the point that we can afford to put this stuff back in to you, to make your lives better, to make it more predictable, we're going to do that. And we're looking for that opportunity.
Yeah. I have one last question. I've talked to Tim about this before. The next time you guys sit down with the ACGO, when we talk about canceled, like we lost, what, 4 or 5 days this year? And it becomes a real pain in the arse for all of us when they have to recard races. A lot of these guys are here 3:30 in the morning and we're running 12 races a day. They're here all day. Is there any shot we can sit down with the ECGO and say, listen, we lost this day's card. Can we just move it to this day? to alleviate all the problems for all of us. Because, I mean, first of all, the horses are jeopardized then because most of them have got treated in the morning or treated or whatever, and they're just getting shuffled around. And then we have these massive cards where everyone gets to redraw and jump back in. So is there a shot that we could sit down with the ACGO and say, listen, we've lost this date. It was miraculously, it's always a Thursday or Friday. I don't think we've ever canceled a Saturday or Sunday card, but we won't get into that. Is there any shot we could just move it a day, because it would benefit the horses and it would benefit us, so we don't have to redraw all this stuff and wonder if we're going to get back in the same post and everything. So is this something we could sit down with the ACGO and do?
It is certainly on our agenda to do that, and we did speak to the HVPA leadership on that just last week. I think there's two kind of items that we're looking for. Is one, a little bit more flexibility on when we start the card, so that maybe if it is a hot day, a heat event, that if we went to the evening, we would be able to run the card.
Huge, yeah,
right now, the hoops that you need to run through to get that approved makes it impossible to have happen. So we want to work with the AGCO to say, you know, in consultation with the HBPA, if the weather is above a certain degree, can we move the start time and make it done so that we are losing less days? So that's one. And then the other is, would they consider a moving of the card? So we have not started that conversation with them, but we'll look into it.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Darren Glennon. We're here and you're sitting under the banner that says Stronger Together. Not to beat a point that's already been brought up too many times, but maybe look at it from a different angle. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you want everybody here to do better financially, which will benefit the industry, which in turn, because we're all dumb here, we put all our money back into the horses, right? The Fort Erie thing isn't just black and white. And when the first gentleman stood up and talked to you, you basically told him, it's black and white. It's a done deal. You're not interested in listening to what he had to say. So I'm going to tell you now from another point of view. Not only is he, you know, losing money, you're running horses here that shouldn't be running here, that needed to go down, get a breather, get a freshening, and come back. That's that one side of it all. But they always come back. And like he said, whoever brought the horse down has a chance now to pay the feedman, who has a chance to buy the feed, and so on and so forth. So stronger together means people being able to pay their bills. If the bottom isn't any good, it doesn't matter how good you guys are at the top, the whole thing's falling over. I used to ship horses down for people. I was shipping 6 and 7 horses down a day, right? That benefited my business. In turn, I had more horses of my own. Again, because I'm too stupid not to put the money in the bank. But then there was horses here to run. If you can run a horse down there and do okay, and come back, and so on and so forth, again, you go to the sales for the same reason once again. We don't buy the cottage, we don't put the money in RSPs like we should, and this, it always goes back in. So to prevent anybody from making money is shooting yourself in the foot, because they always put the money back in. And the health and welfare of everybody in here and on the backstretch makes them stronger together. So I know from a business point of view, that's your objective. And to get the biggest field is your objective. But I don't think you're doing it. Okay? Me, myself, I cut down on horses. And I'm not the only one, just because of that rule. So in the long run, it doesn't work out. And they're not wrong about raising the bottom level. So if you ask for help and you ask for input, then you need to listen. Because again, you're on the top, and I'll quote a client of mine who said, wealthy man, very successful, was in a group, and he said to me, the problem with wealthy men and successful men all trying to work together is they all have an opinion and they all have egos, and they don't like being told what to do. So if you're going to sit up there and ask us for opinions, then listen to them. Because hard black and white lines do not work in anything, whether it be this industry or any other, or in life. That's my point.
Thank you for your comments. Thanks for your honesty. I appreciate it. Sir, I owe you an apology. If that came across as me being disrespectful, for me not treating you fairly, that was certainly not my intention, and I apologize if it came across that way.
Thank you very much for the apology, but again, what the fellow just said, what you have to remember is we're supposed to be in this together, and that's why I say to you, E.P. Taylor, we rolling in his grave, thinking that Woodbine wouldn't allow horses to go down to 40 and come back.
Yep.
And all I'm trying to do is go back, like he said, is get a few bucks. It pays for the groom, the hot walker, the vet, the trainer, and it keeps me in the business. And he made a great point. I thought, you know what, I'd love to go to the sale. But if I don't get the money revenue keep coming in, I can't go to the sale.
And I appreciate that this is a difficult issue. And this is not, it's certainly not black and white. I regret if it came across that way. The way that this policy was originally developed is not what the policy is today, and that's because of the consultation that happened with the people in this room and with the HBPA. There's been a lot of dialogue on this. It is a very difficult issue with a lot of different factors, and it's our job and the job of the race office to make the decision that we think is in the best interest of the industry as a whole, which has an impact on certain individuals, but a corresponding decision could have a greater negative impact on a greater number of individuals. That's the line of thinking that we put into these things. And so when there's an opportunity to balance, then we balance. And that comes from input. I think this is great input. This is not the only way that we receive input from horse people. Sue, again, through HBPA, which is your representative, represents you well in raising these issues. There's many internal conversations we have, but when we step back in totality and say, what is the damage that is being done to the industry and to the future success of the industry by allowing something to occur the way it's occurring? And how do we weigh that against the negative repercussions of putting a policy in place? And then we have to make a decision. And there's a lot of those decisions that happen every day. You may not agree with the decision we make. And we have to come to terms with that. We have to agree to that. We can't be here to try to make sure that everybody is happy and everybody is aligned. We're not going to be. Because even within this group, there's going to be people that have different opinions on things. But I fully understand that you may not agree with what we do, but it's our obligation to make sure that you understand why a policy is put in place. And it's our responsibility or burden to make decisions that we think are in the best interest of what we're all trying to do here, which is make this sustainable and vibrant for another 100 years. So that's what we're trying to do.
Right, and just to comment on that, we get that. We understand what you're trying to do. I'm just not agreeing. And I'm going to tell you that if you take those glasses off and you put on a yellow lens glasses, you're going to see things differently. And I'm not saying you're right and I'm wrong, or vice versa. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying the rule as it stands is too hard. It's not worth dealing with. And for you to sit up there and say it's fair, it's bullshit. It's not. Okay? You go ask. I'm the one who asked and was told no many times. So that horse is gone. Gone. Not in Fort Erie, not here either. And that's what's going to happen. And that is what has happened. And that's reality. So how that benefits field size here, I don't understand. How that benefits my pocket, it doesn't. And ultimately, how it stops me from going to the sale or bothering to breathe anymore, it doesn't. And those horses are the ones that were going to come back here. So it's a big circle, and if you can't keep it moving, then the money can't come back around, and we can't get stronger together. You're talking about the future in building. There has to be a flow of money around in order for this to carry on. And all I'm asking, just like everybody else in here, is that you look at this again from another perspective, and we all can't be wrong. Not everybody in this room can be wrong. Like, if you want to know who it affects the most, it's everybody in this room. It's everybody's pocketbook in this room, plus everybody that's not here that owns horses. But ultimately, if we're not all doing good, you're not doing good either.
Great, thanks.
2 last questions, and then we'll have to wrap it up because we're getting a little tight for time. Johnny, and then Julia Carey. So go ahead, Johnny.
So I have one question to ask, or
No,
I have
no,
the mic? Okay. All right.
Well, you got a list. So.
Okay. Yeah. I had to condense it. Anyway, John Sherlumbus, trainer. I just want to thank all the participants here that came up to speak. They brought up some good points, and it just shows the passion they have for what we do and what we've, invested our lives in. So I just want to thank them all for bringing up those points. First question's kind of a 2-part question, but it's a similar scenario. Allowance non-2, non-3 OS 40,000. You have to run for 40,000 as an OSS horse to participate in the extra purse. And so we have a horse like, I'm just going to bring this horse up because he's won about 8 races here, Patches O'Houlihan. So he's running in a race like that, and he's going to get less. He doesn't participate in the whole purse, but the horse is running for 40,000 does. I don't understand the logic. Maybe someone can, advance my education on that, but I just don't understand how that works. And in the same kind of scenario, the Ontario breds, once they're claimed, they're not eligible for the bonus anymore. I understand why that was implemented way back in like 2005, but let's revisit that, because there were 2 people came up and spoke today that I claimed horses from. They claimed them back, and now they don't get the Ontario bred bonus. So I don't understand, again, why, or maybe we have to, I'd like to sit down and take another look at that program, or how that purse is distributed.
Well, thanks for your questions, John. I think both questions were warranted, and in response to that, it mostly revolves around the fact that we have to be cognizant that we're working with the budget here. I don't know the stats off the top of my head, but obviously, 40 to 50% of the horses that we have on the grounds are foaled in Ontario. As we discussed last year, as it pertained to the tip bonuses that we manage and we distribute, even with our slight adjustment this year, we're still paying about $1 million out of our own purse budget to support the program. We will meet our obligation this year for our purse budget, which is $62 million. And unfortunately, with these Ontario breds, because there's so many of them, if we didn't structure the program the way we did, there would be another $4, $5, $6 million in bonuses given out that that we just couldn't budget for. So we want to support the Ontario breeders, and I think we structure it in a sense that we try to make it fair to everyone. The Ontario sired bonuses, as you know, applies to claimed horses if they're running for over $20,000. But for the Ontario sired maiden races, if you do run protected, you do get your Ontario sired bonus. And for the winners races, again, it's just when we integrated the hybrid system of combining the claiming price with the restricted allowance, if you were to run an Ontario sired restricted allowance, we wouldn't tack on an Ontario sired bonus on top of that. So we had to figure out how to structure it properly while being cognizant of our budget. I'm looking into those 2, the non-2 and non-3 conditions, to see if there's a way that we can introduce the bonus back. So I thank you for your question, but that's kind of where we're coming from that angle.
Okay, maybe we can speed up the process, because it's not fair. It's not. So we base our post times during the year to kind of coincide with New York, is that correct? Like balance between their posts, like at Saratoga, we switch to kind of coordinate their schedule with our schedule. Am I correct on that?
Like all racetracks, we make a joint effort collectively to ensure that we're not running on top of each other in terms of our specific post times themselves. But we do follow similar post times to North American racetracks on weekends throughout the summer, but that's because the majority of racetracks have a 1 o'clock post on the East Coast.
Okay, so now the relevant, now we are into daylight standard time. The relevant racetracks on the East Coast have all moved their post times up to 12:20, 12:30. We didn't adjust ours. Now, I realize we have lights and those tracks don't, but I also know that it's very cold in November, and when the sun goes down, that track changes drastically. If you move the post time up to an earlier post, we get probably a couple of races in where the sun's still out. You know, on a cold day that's not windy, that sun is a real bonus. And if we're talking about health and welfare of our horses, it'd be nice to, run the same amount of races, but start a little earlier on those days. And in kind of following through with that, we talked about the training track being hard in the springtime. Maybe poll the trainers that are here in March and April and ask, why do we open the track at 6 and 7 a.m.? Why don't we open at 8 o'clock, and then by 9:30, 10 o'clock, the track's beautiful because the sun's had a chance to come down, because it makes no sense to open a track in pitch black when it's 10 below out, and talk to the people that are here. So anyway, thanks for your time.
Okay, one quick question. In regards to HISA in America and the way our rules are, is there any talk of having different drug rules to coincide with the tracks in the States at all?
Well, as you know, HISA is federally regulated by the U.S. government. Our, national regulator for medications is CPMA. We're actively, discussing with our regulators, anything that we can do in a proactive sense of keeping up to date, for the best interest of the integrity of our program. But these talks are very preliminary.
Okay, so we're not looking at any changes in the near future?
Not
in regards
right
to LASIX or, different time periods, because it's much different in Canada than it is in the U.S.
It's a lot different, and we're in frequent contact with
I'm
AGCO and CPMA. No, understood. But unless I'm going to be blindsided in the next few months, I don't foresee any drastic changes to our to how our program works.
Okay,
yeah,
that's good. Just a quick thing on the Fort Erie thing. I really can't understand why Woodbine would feel threatened with their horse population when allowing horses to go back and forth. First of all, it's super expensive to send a horse down to Fort Erie to race and back. No owner is going to want to do that and pay Woodbine training rates and do that on a consistent basis. So I don't really understand. Plus, our horse population has shrunk dramatically. Like, shouldn't we just kind of share our horse population a little bit? I mean, no one's going to go to Fort Erie on a regular basis because the expense is too high, and you're going to lose your stalls because you will not allot that trainer stalls. Well, you put in stall applications 3 times a year. I mean, if your horses that are here are running all the time in Fort Erie, you're going to lose stalls. Everybody understands that. I don't see why there's the threat there. That's all.
I mean, I think there is an avenue to have greater coordination, and we've actively been trying to pursue those conversations in order to ensure that. So we'll keep working at that, because I think there can be better coordination between the tracks.
It's expensive to ship a horse to Fort Erie on a consistent basis. I mean, no one's going to pay a trainer $100 a day in Toronto to run in Fort Erie. That's like They're
No,
just not going to do
totally-
it on a consistent
Yeah, I hear you.
basis. So.
And you know, another thing that's come up a lot today, which I'm mindful of, is the request to listen, the quest to request to engage in conversation. And I know we come here a couple times a year and have these forums, but you do have a horse persons group that represents you in the HPPA, and Sue Leslie, and they do a good job at it. We meet with them quite regularly. During the meetings, there's a set agenda of items that we each can put to have discussed. In between those formal meetings, there's constant meetings that Tim and Bill and Sue and phone calls that are happening. So we'd very strongly encourage you, if you feel that your issues are not being raised through conversation that you might have with Dan or Tim or others on the backstretch, get them into the HBPA, because that's why we have those meetings. We want to hear from you. We want to hear about issues on the tracks, track conditions, issues that you're having in terms of running your own businesses, things that we can be doing better. So we perhaps, we look to those meetings as being the voice of the issues that you're facing. So I would just strongly encourage you to know that process is there. It's firmly in place. It's part of the agreement that we have with you. So you should use it as another means to get your issues forward and addressed.
We're going to squeeze in one last question, but before we get to Josie, I just want to let everybody know too, just a little bit off topic, that there have been a couple of new Jockey Club of Canada awards that have been announced, and Megan is here from the Jockey Club of Canada with nomination forms for Outstanding Groom, which has been done in the past, and the new one is Outstanding Off-Track Worker. So to see Megan before we wrap things up. One last question, then we'll wrap things up for today.
Yeah, it's not really a question, it's just sort of a synopsis. I mean, we've had many discussions, yourselves and HVPA, on many of these issues that were raised, but I think what you've got here is a passionate bunch of people who are making really clear what they need, and we're all very excited about the upcoming future and what it entails. I think everybody is worried about the balance now. A lot of people are on life support trying to be in this industry, and it's great that there might be some great horse racing in the future, but we would like these people to still be there to benefit from it. And I think that's where we need to find our balance, is getting some help into the pockets of the people now so that they can still be here to sustain all this in the future.
Thanks.
Well, that's a wrap for our Stronger Together for today. I just want to thank you all for coming, because we need to hear this feedback and we appreciate it. And I just really want to thank you all for taking time out of your busy schedules, and thank you to all of you for joining us on the panel as well. Don't forget to see Tony for the free lunch, get a coupon off of him, and happy holidays, everybody.